3 Nigeria Info. Welcome again. If you're just joining the Morning Crossfire, this is a time where we look at the stories making it to the front pages. We call it the front pages, and we're live on Facebook, also on YouTube, where you can watch us streaming live on those platforms. You can also listen to us anywhere you are in the world on our website, nigeriainfo.fm, and also make sure to leave us your comments and thoughts on these headlines on Twitter at nigeriainfo.fm. Make sure you're following us on all of these places so you can get the notification when we're on. Turn on your notification and you will be alerted. Welcome to the show. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
And I am Sheriff Quadry as usual. We're streaming as we speak right now on the From the Front Pages, bringing you all the big stories making it to the front pages of the papers. I have Daily Sun here. The Daily Independent is also on the table. The Punch is right here with me, and the Vanguard newspaper.
And I have here the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian is our media partner. The Nation newspaper is also here. This Day newspaper, as well as the Daily Trust. So let us start off. If you are ready, we are ready. Banner headline on the Nation newspaper: $9.6 billion judgment. FEC did not okay contract, says ex-AGF. Federal government hires foreign lawyers. Negotiation option is possible. There's a quote here from that story on the front page of the Nation. No such contract was brought for deliberation. I did not see such contract, and since the news broke, I have been wondering how this was possible. Well, on the front page of this day newspaper, we are leaving no stone unturned on PNID $6.6 billion judgment debt, says federal government. Considers negotiated settlement. Senior advocates divided on Nigeria's options. Revealed how poor coordination landed Nigeria in trouble. That's a banner headline on this date. It's also reported on the Daily Trust, $9.6 billion judgment. Federal government says it's ready to negotiate.
Indeed. From the Daily Sun newspaper, $9.6 billion judgment debt. FG denies alleged non-diligent defense of case. Daily Sun for you. From the Daily Independent newspaper, we have similar headline here. FG ready to negotiate $9.6 billion judgment against Nigeria. Daily Independent for you with that story. Moving on to the Punch front page above the nameplate. We're ready to negotiate $9.6 billion fine with PNID. FG speaking there. Moving on now quickly. I think that's about it from the papers this morning as regards that particular headline. Rotimi joins us now. Rotimi is a policy and development expert. Rotimi, good morning to you.
Morning.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Rotimi has been a little bit under the weather this week. How are you feeling now?
Well, much better than the country.
Oh, because, man, this is quite a mess.
The country is under the weather very seriously.
Yeah, $9.6 billion sick.
Sometimes when public officials make excuses for lack of due diligence, you often wonder what they are thinking, whether they are thinking before they speak. As is often the case, they are not. When a very senior person like that says it wasn't due to lack of due diligence, what were they looking at? Is lack of due diligence that lands a country in this kind of situation,
right?
Where $9 billion is
dollars,
is awarded to the other side. It's lack of diligence. There was a contract. Nobody has denied that there was a contract. Why didn't they follow through on the contract? And then why didn't they follow through on the case? And in case people don't know what this was about, so this was a firm contracted to build a gas plant. And the reason why this is really significant is that gas plant would have earned us billions of dollars.
Right.
Because Nigeria flares gas.
Right.
So the what Nigeria was meant to bring to the table was to supply wet gas to this company through our pipelines free of charge. That was our part of the agreement, which Nigeria did not fulfill. But Nigeria is claiming that those plants also were not built. But Nigeria did not even fulfill its own part of supplying wet gas to be processed by P&ID.
Well, the thing with contracts is this. The contracts have milestones. You have to follow step A
Right.
before B, B
Right.
before C, C
Right.
before, and so forth like that. It's not like Nigerian government policy paper where they say we have a policy. And then when you ask them for it, they just show you one piece of paper
And that's it.
with no milestone,
Yeah.
nobody
How do you
responsible.
achieve it?
Because policy paper will have about 4 columns at the end saying you do this by day 1. This is how much it will cost. This is who is responsible.
Yeah.
And this is the expected outcome. Nigeria, so-called policy papers in Nigeria never have it. And then you go like a step 1, 2, 3. And the final step also says this is who is responsible. This is how much. This is when it should be done. This is what you should have achieved. Those kind of companies, when they do contract, the contract has milestones. If the Nigerian government does not do A, B, C, D, E, they are not going to do E, F, G.
Yeah, and they wrote a letter. I mean, this has been since 2006. They wrote for arbitration after about 2 years when
Yes.
Nigeria did not fulfill its
And
part.
they just
To say
ignored
you're
it
not,
more or
They
less.
ignored. I
Yes.
mean, administration after administration
Yes.
spends months and years. In fact, if we had gone through with the arbitration, we
which
would be paying so much.
Which is like what we do in Nigeria.
Even the court cases that happened in London, Nigeria did not respond in time. Sometimes it
Exactly.
took 8 months before we replied to the
We
charges.
just sleep on things.
The amount, so there is a combination of many things here. There is incompetence, ignorance, impunity, carelessness. And then somebody comes out and says that it is not the case that they didn't do due diligence. How did we end up there?
Right.
Actually, the biggest lack of due diligence, like I said, is not even on the case. It is the fact that successive governments, not this one
Yes.
alone,
Right.
Jonathan and all the governments before, keep complaining that we don't make enough money. Gas plants would have saved us that problem to a certain degree. Nigeria flares gas. The gas has serious environmental consequences. But more importantly, if we harness gas for power, depending on how much gas, how big the power plant is, straight away, that's 20 to 40,000 megawatts.
Right.
In the coming week,
Straight away.
we'll have a full conversation on this. We'll help you understand all of this $9.6 billion. Make sure you join the Morning Crossfire next week. We'll bring in the experts to tell you why we didn't supply the wet gas. How did we get here? We'll break it down. But let's move on now and see another story on the front page of The Nation. Nigerians indulging in crime abroad are bad envoys. That's a headline here on The Nation. It's also reported there's a similar story on this day newspaper. Buhari rallies Japan, says investment returns highest in Nigeria, warns Nigerians in the diaspora against crime. Also on the front page of the Daily Trust, Buhari invites Japanese investors.
From the front page of Vanguard newspaper, few Nigerians abroad giving us bad name. Buhari speaking there from the front page of the Punch newspaper. Fraudulent Nigerians abroad not representing our values. Buhari, the Punch newspaper. From Daily Independent newspaper, cybercrime suspects on FBI's list not typical Nigerians. Buhari right there. And Nigerians indulging in crime abroad not representing our values. Buhari, the writer says, country offers attractive investment opportunities. The Daily Sun newspaper.
I'm
Rotimi.
interested in this not typical Nigerian story. I'm wondering who a typical Nigerian is. Let's see page 11 of the Daily Independent. President Muhammad Buhari has almost disowned the Nigerian cybercrime suspects who were recently reviewed as being on the watch list of the American Federal Bureau of Investigation. Speaking on Thursday in Japan, President Buhari noted that the suspects did not represent the core values of Nigerians, although he considered that some Nigerians had become a source of embarrassment to the country. He said their number was not significant enough to define Nigeria as a country of people with dubious character. Okay. So,
That explains it, right?
but they are Nigerians, so I'm wondering what typical Nigerian meant.
Yeah, we're not criminals.
Okay, I'll see. Okay.
So, 2 things from Japan. The president is trying to attract Japanese investors, saying Nigeria is a great investment destination.
Yeah, high yield on returns.
Yes, the
On
Japanese
investment.
will be looking at the P&D case
Closely.
very closely and wondering, okay, so if we come there now and sign contracts,
13 years later, we're still on it.
look, if you talk to foreign investors, their general assumption on this P&D thing will be these people were asked to settle after the contract was signed and they didn't. That's typically the assumption that the contract was signed, the people were asked to, by somebody somewhere to shake body, see them. They didn't, and they were like, okay,
let's keep watching.
We'll see now. Is it not our country?
Let's all
How
wait
would you
now.
do?
Who will lose?
Forgetting that. Incidentally, Nigeria also signed that arbitration can only happen in England. So we'll look at that next week. Very interesting case. I've spent time reading about it.
So,
very ridiculous.
So the Japanese investors would, in fact, as the president will be talking, they will just be
whispering to themselves, like,
just nudging themselves with their knee under the table. Yes, P&D. The Japanese take investment issues very seriously.
Yes.
I've been fortunate to attend this TICAD, the Tokyo International Conference on Africa, once. It's one of the most efficient conferences I have ever seen. Ever. Everything is more efficient than G7.
Wow.
Everything is lined up in advance. Negotiations, processes, and so if we are just going there to be assuring them that we are a good investment destination, we miss the boat. The other countries would have lined up.
Sent in papers.
Before the TICAD itself in Japan,
it
follows multiple steps of consultation in Africa. And normally it holds in Nairobi or Addis Ababa. And that's where a lot of the deals are completed.
All of what they'll be doing there is just handshake.
No, Tokyo is just ceremony.
Right.
It's just ceremony. So if we are going there to go and assure them that Nigeria is a good investment destination.
Come, let's show you.
Even the other African countries will just be, those memes on the internet of there is one popular Yoruba actor that just looks at you.
I know who.
Oh boy, you don't know what you are saying. That's how they be looking at us, that you are coming to assure. They would have done all the deals in the pre-TICAD conferences. Normally 2 or 3. Like that. So that's not a place to go and assure.
Let's see more reasons why they might not come. Other stories here. Insecurity. Police launch aerial battle. IG orders air surveillance in southwest and northwest. Governors open talks with bandits. 4 held with explosives. Another headline. Plenty insecurity issues on the papers today.
Quite many.
Lagos-Ibadan Expressway closes on Monday. Why?
For rehab.
Okay.
Yeah, they postponed it before
forever.
Police September 2nd.
Police to recruit 40,000 constables. Gunmen brutally murder Catholic priest. All of these headlines on the front page of the Nation newspaper. On the front page of this newspaper, to stop killings, Masari holds talks with bandits. Says enough is enough. Federal government says gunmen killed 1,460 in 330 attacks. That's a headline on this day. Looking at the Daily Trust, how kidnapping is making families poorer. Banner headline on the Daily Trust, banditry 1,460 deaths, 330 attacks in 7 months. This is coming from the federal government. On the front page of The Guardian, you find a picture of the priest who has just been killed. Very sad story. How gunmen killed Catholic priest, set body ablaze. Sad story here. 3 riders. IGP wants more security for clerics and worship centers. 11 telecoms workers murdered in Borno State. Oshibajo cautions on religious and ethnic tensions.
Indeed. Let's pick it up from the murder of the Catholic priest, Rotimi. Insecurity is is reaching a tipping point, or has reached a tipping point in Nigeria. And the only response the IGP said was to have surveillance helicopters. And I saw a press statement from the police yesterday saying that citizens shouldn't be scared when they see helicopters. And I'm wondering, is
Really?
that the solution?
Seeing helicopter is normal.
No, they're telling us that you will be seeing their helicopters, so don't panic. This is why I think it's good they're warning Nigerians ahead of
What
time.
is so what is so new about helicopters?
Well, as
Yeah,
honestly, as nice as the IGP's statement sounds, helicopters are not going to solve the problem. In fact, sending more police and soldiers will only stem the tide of the matter just for a short while. I mean, we will be seeing these sad incidents repeatedly, priest abducted, murdered. I mean, very sadly, it is going to become the new normal.
There's been a high number this month, especially.
The security
Right.
response is always important. That's not the most important response. What is fueling the banditry is two things. One is the complete collapse of governance at the local level. Let's not forget the NFIU, the Finance Intelligence Unit recommendations on local government autonomy
Has to be
Right.
taken very
made this
seriously.
particular point.
Yeah.
It made this particular point. And this is based on global understanding. That NFIU recommendation is not just supposed to be for Nigeria. Don't forget, this is a global process.
Right.
And they've done their intelligence analysis. That's why the intelligence is in the NFIU. That's what the I is there for. And they've concluded that countries where local governance collapses are open to a rapid rise in banditry and extremism.
Right.
And therefore, that the governors, the state governors should hand off the local government funds so that development can go on at the local government level. And that means primary schools, secondary schools, vocational training, and all the other areas that local government should be doing, which also includes employment of people. So that is one step. The second step, so that's for the governors. So all this their negotiation with bandits is not what we want. What we want is they should negotiate with the local government officials and hand back the autonomy and the money that goes with it, which is billions of naira every month.
Right.
Until that is done, all these kids, that are transiting into young adulthood every year, if you go to places like Zamfara in the northwest, and of course we saw what happened in Borno and Yobe, you will travel for hundreds of miles and there is no sign of government. None. So groups of people just gather, establish themselves as the local authority there, and just become bandits,
just take
extremists. They are, in short, they are the government in the place.
Create their own laws.
Yeah.
In addition to that, the role of the federal government, we are talking about the gas plant. When you have a scenario in which the country is generating less than 10% of the electricity that it needs, two things happen. First of all, imagine if we went from the 5,000 megawatts we are now to the 160,000 to 200,000 where we should be. First of all, it will soak up thousands of young people in terms of technicians, maintenance people. How do we think the employment in the developed countries that unemployment problem is solved?
Right.
It is through public works investment, because the tens of thousands of people you need to run power plants, maintenance, central water system,
You will
central
employ
sewage
people.
system,
That's right.
central transport system, trains, and all those things. That is a guaranteed source of lifetime employment.
All right.
So not doing that means we can't solve the employment problem. Not to talk of the spin-off in the power generation and the jobs it can generate. So, all these big deficits in
Right.
power, in housing, in transport. If you think of the number of everything, electricians, bricklayers, technicians, water engineers, microbiology, it is tens of thousands.
Rotimi, let's move on quickly now. Let's pick up our next headline from the Vanguard newspaper. Imo government orders arrest of ex-governor Rochas Okorocha. That's from the Vanguard newspaper. I guess there's no immunity anymore. From the Daily Independent newspaper, Imo government orders arrest of Okorocha. Daily Independent for you. And from Daily Sun, Okorocha's Kingsmen demand his prosecution. Daily Sun for you.
Any government in power, a jeep. That's where the traditional rulers go.
Right.
The head now pays their salary. These same people used to troop to the the conference center in Owerri.
Wherever the stew is cooking.
Yes,
I
to
mean.
hail Rochas as the best thing that ever happened. He should go on forever. They celebrate him, our wonderful son. Just a few months now, and they've turned. Look, a lot of these traditional rulers, they have no role to play in our governance system. They are just soaking up billions of naira every year. Every year.
And they have so much autonomy that they barely give account of what they use their money for.
In fact, autonomy is not the
right word.
The right word. If we use the right word for them on this program, it's not going to sound right.
Let's move on to Kogi State, where Bello polls 3,091 to win Kogi APC ticket. This is the headline on the Nation newspaper. Daily Trust, aspirant kicks as Bello wins Kogi APC governorship ticket. Well, he's won the ticket. I mean, it's also reported on the Guardian newspaper. Bello wins Kogi APC gubernatorial primary.
It's here on the Daily
some
Independent
people there will
and
beg
Punch
to
as well.
differ on whether he actually won it fair and square.
Well, don't we always argue those? So,
Well,
if they think they have evidence against that, they could put it forward.
if they are right and he didn't win it fair and square, it will be one of those 800 plus cases that INEC is having to deal with from the primary system post-election.
Right.
It should be one of those stories all over again.
Let's take a look at this headline here from the front page of the Punch newspaper. Banner headline, 25 trillion naira debt profile. Further borrowing will hurt economy. Experts warn FG. Riders borrow for investment, not consumption, says Rwani. More debts will endanger budget implementation. Wokoma, the Punch newspaper for you.
Well,
25 trillion naira.
Having failed to follow through on things like building of gas plants that would have yielded us more income, Nigerian governments will then always turn to borrowing, and a lot of this will just go on overhead that politicians are just going to whack.
Interestingly, the government keeps emphasizing that we don't have a debt problem. We have a revenue problem. Every time we say that, I'm just wondering, we have a revenue problem and we're borrowing more, and you say we don't have a debt problem. How do you intend to pay back the debt?
When somebody says we don't have food problem, we only have hunger problem. What does that mean?
What does it mean? We keep borrowing more for the wrong things, and we don't know how we're going to pay them back.
Right.
The amount of money that government officials spend on maintaining themselves is scandalous. This is where most of this money is going to end up. Government officials, especially the most senior ones, live in free house. They have free car, free fuel, free food, free transport, free health. And when I say free, what I mean is that it is the government money that is paying for it. Not that it is coming out of the thin air. Just multiply by commissioners, governors, advisors, ministers, House of Reps, Senates, ex-heads of states.
Right.
And we are not yet then talking of all the ex-ones that now get exactly what they were getting when they were there.
Continuously and for life.
So
all you just have to do is find your way there, and for life you're settled.
Let me just give a quick example. So There's somebody now who was former governor, then became senator, now minister.
Yep.
That person is getting 200 million plus a year as pension, free house in Abuja, free in Lagos, cook, bodyguard, security, 2 cars, health of, I can't remember, 20 million or so.
It's just well
Plus,
settled. The
plus
country,
the Senate thing,
yeah.
Right.
30
Welcome
million plus
package.
a month. Da.
And now
Now
a
minister.
Yeah,
They will now add to that one another free house again.
yeah, and cars.
And cars, and multiply that one by all the. That's where the money. Unless those
yeah.
things stop. Unless, because if you are getting that amount of money, go and get your own house.
Yeah, buy your own car and fuel it. Well, Nigerians, we must wrap up right now on the show.
Then they will say
on
there
the
is no
front
money for
pages.
minimum wage, no money for free education,
We
no
don't
money for
have
free
money.
health, all things that will add value to the country. No money for those ones.
When we come back from this break, very short break, we'll be looking at teenage pregnancy and domestic violence on the show today. Remember, every Friday we have a partnership with the Wole Soyinka Center, and we're looking at a story done by Ini John Mekwa of Channels Television under the Female Reporters Leadership Program of the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism. And we'll also have joining us on the show this morning to look at this issue. We'll have Mr. Jeffrey Ekwenko, who's coming in from the Lagos State Domestic Sexual Violence Response Team. So we're looking at domestic violence and other works at 8 o'clock, just some minutes from now. So make sure to join us again. Rotimi Sankore will be here also with us. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
And I'm Sheriff Quadry.
See you soon.
Hi there. Like the popular belief, the side of the bed you wake up on can affect your mood all through